Welcome to today's video, and today we are talking about the easy bar curl for developing your biceps. In this video I will share my considerations of how to train the biceps with easy bar curl. I will share some of the mistakes that I see a lot of people are making, and then at the end of the video I will show you one working set of how I'm performing everything in practice. So step number one is to understand here the difference between the easy bar curl. So why should we do it with an easy bar compared here to the straight bar? We can also do some curls with the straight bar. So what is the difference between these two? To understand the difference, we must talk about the function of the biceps in the first place. So the function of this muscle is very simple. We have here elbow flexion, so flexing our elbow, and then we look at the wrist and it's wrist supination. So when you are, for example, doing a chin-up, so you move the wrist from the hammer position into supination, and as you can see here, the bicep gets activated. And if we perform both of these, we flex our elbow and supinate the wrist, we get here maximum activation in the biceps. So if we are looking now at the straight bar, you see if we are holding here the straight bar, then our wrist is completely supinated and we are doing here the elbow flexion, so the biceps is maximally active in this position. And if we are doing it with an easy bar, as you can see, our wrist is no more completely supinated, it's only semi-supinated. So here we will get less activation in the biceps. So why should we do it in the first place? Well, it comes down to one reason, and it would be, for some people this position can feel not natural. So you are being forced here by the straight bar to be in this completely supinated position, and for some people it can be uncomfortable and they can get some discomfort or even some pain in the elbow or wrist area. And in my opinion, the straight bar was just not designed for curling. So if you are prone to elbow injuries, golfer's elbow, tennis elbow, or have some pain in the wrist, then the easy bar is the solution. The wrist will be semi-supinated, but you can get here alleviation in the elbow and in the wrist, and you can target the biceps also very good with an easy bar. So this was made in mind your personal anatomy, and if it feels better, and my recommendation is start with an easy bar. So your wrist with an easy bar will not be completely supinated, it will be semi-supinated. Now this is a very important thing to keep in mind. If you are looking at the wrist angles, if you turn it into a hammer position, you can see that the biceps is not that much engaged anymore. So if you are performing hammer curls, in my book, this is for forearms. So we have here the brachioradialis, the forearm muscle, and the brachialis is also working all the time. It's an elbow flexor. So hammer position is forearms, and then you have a reverse curl. You can also do it with an easy bar. So it's from hammer position to semi-pronated position, or even fully pronated, but fully pronated, like doing with a straight bar, would also not be comfortable. So semi-pronated, like in a reverse curl, it's forearms. So when training biceps, we want to either have a full wrist supination or a semi-supination. So in today's video, I'm talking about the standing easy bar curl, and here you can have two variations of the grip. You can use this wider grip, it's called an outside grip, so that would be my standard choice, especially if you are not a beginner anymore, you are a little bit wider in your frame and this feels the most natural for me. But you can go narrower, so we have here this narrow grip, and it's called an inside grip. The problem with the inside grip for me personally is you have to tuck your elbows a little bit more, and they will be in front of your body. And when you will be performing it with heavier weight here, you will see that the bar is more in front of you, and then I just feel here that the lower back tries to stabilize, and I get here pain in my lower back area. So that's why in the standing version I don't use this narrow grip. With lighter weights it's okay, but as the weight gets heavier it pulls me and the lower back has to counterbalance. So that's why in the standing version I prefer the outside grip. And I don't stress about whether it targets here the long head of the biceps or the short head of the biceps. I just cannot do the inside grip comfortably here. I'm doing the inside grip only, for example, on the preacher or when doing a spider curl where the lower back is taken out of the equation. Now, if we are talking about the technique, how to perform the movement, the biggest mistake that you can make, in my opinion, is not controlling the negative and cheating way too much. So you want to have a controlled movement here. So flex elbow, lower it back down, and to have control throughout the whole range of motion. So you can make the mistake of swinging too much, involving your lower back, your hips. So you are performing here a cheat curl. Then you can bring your elbows all the way to the front and mix it together. So this will not work your biceps, unfortunately. All the other muscle groups are taking over. A little bit of cheating in the bottom is okay in my book. When the set gets heavier, I tend to use just a little bit momentum, so I push it a little bit from the hips. But then the most important thing is the negative. So you want to control the eccentric. So this is where the money is made. This is where you get the most stimulus in the bicep. Perform the curl and then you control the negative. Even if I'm using a little bit of cheat later in the set from the hips, I still want to control the negative. So the major mistake that you can make here, excessive cheating and not controlling the negative. So you will be doing something like this, and by doing this you will just not develop here the biceps. And mistake number 2 is not pushing it all the way to failure. So I see it all the time. Many people are training here the bicep curl. They have, for example, 3 sets, and they do set number 1, they are doing here the curls, and when it starts to get tough, get heavy, they stop out of nowhere and they are done with the first set. Then they rest a little bit. Now comes set number 2. Once again, they are doing the curl, and once it gets heavy, they stop. They are not pushing here to failure and nowhere near close to failure in the beginning. And then set number 3, the magic set comes into play, and then they are pushing very hard and very close to failure. So in my book, you have completely wasted here your first 2 sets. You didn't get enough stimulus and the muscle just doesn't have the reason to grow, to adapt. So push every set to absolute failure. You have to treat it as a priority. So when I will show you a little bit later of how I'm performing the working set, you will see me pushing it to absolute failure, because I really want to develop my arms. They are very high importance for me, this muscle group. So I will push it to the maximum. The recommended rep range would be from 8 to 12. This gives a good balance of not letting the pump to be the limiting factor. If I'm performing, for example, 10 to 15, which is also could be a consideration, but I'm doing a lot of sets in one workout, I tend to feel that the biceps are so pumped with blood, and then the pump becomes the limiting factor and not the muscle itself. So I tend to stick to 8 to 12. And then one last consideration is using the variation with the fat grips. So you attach here the fat grips, and in that way you can get a little bit more forearms from the easy bar curl. So it depends on your goal. If you want to purely target here the biceps, I would not do it with the fat grips variation. But if you want to get a little bit more forearms here, the inner part of the forearms, you can use the fat grip variation. You will get a little bit less in terms of biceps here, but it will give you a little bit more balance overall. So if you are, for example, short of time, you don't want to isolate your forearms, this could be a decent alternative for you. But if you are focused purely on the biceps, then I prefer it to do the standard way with the easy curl bar. So here I will show you one working set of how I'm performing everything in practice. If you are interested in hypertrophy training, here's a playlist. You can check out more videos of mine. So thank you for watching and see you soon next time. Bye.